my friend. Sorry it's so late. The past couple of days I've been making these videos. Just the nature of traveling all day long. I didn't want to make a quick video on the bus. Wanted to be able to give you my full attention here now. I realized that something that, although the interview with Marcus was great last night, I wanted to have a little bit more explanation about what happened yesterday, because there was a lot of things that went down that were actually really insightful, really beautiful, really powerful, specifically the hitchhiking experience. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of people tell me that when I told them I'm going to go hitchhike, they're like, you must be insane, you must have lost your mind, you must you must have a death wish, whatever it is. Like, don't you know how many crazy people there are out there? You're going to get raped or killed or mugged or whatever, left for dead on the side of the road. I think it's really an example of an overall much deeper, larger problem that our society has, which is a fear of authentically connecting with people. And so we assume that the other person is going to be so unloving and so receive us in such a negative way because our perception of the world is that the world is like that. Well, why is our perception of the world that the world is like that? Well, for most of us, our outside world is our inside world. And so you probably have that level of unacceptance for your deepest truth, your deepest beautiful blessings inside of you. You're like, no, love doesn't exist. Peace doesn't happen. That can't be me. Like, the world isn't wonderful. I'm not wonderful. And when you have that self-doubt, that self-negative talk, it manifests in the world. And it's not anybody's fault for believing like that, for not seeing, sensing, and loving their own greatness, of course. But it's fed to us over and over again by a society that feeds on fear, by a society that is so terrified of its own doggone shadow. And so it's easy to then extrapolate that every stranger on the side of the road is going to kill you if you have that internal self-dialogue. And so hitchhiking for me is actually a weight room for me to work my love muscle, because I am completely vulnerable. I mean, I do have a switchblade in my pocket, but if something really goes down, I'm going to get screwed up somehow. And so what I have to do is I have to actually open up to the universe. I have to open up my soul. I have to become completely vulnerable in every sense of the word, and it forces authentic human connection. Because it turns out that almost every time, there's been some weirdos, but almost every time the people that pull over on the side of the road for you are the ones who are just genuinely loving. And so I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, this exactly happened. I was on the side of the road, just got to the Atlanta airport. I was taking the train as far south as I could go, so that I'm on the southernmost tip of Atlanta as far as the metro would take me. And so I walked like 2 miles to get to an open space, because when you're hitchhiking, there's a couple of major rules you got to remember, which is wear like nice clothes, be kind of clean cut, clean shaven, or at least clean up the edges, so that you don't look like a total bum. But then also when you're hitchhiking, you got to smile, and then make sure that you give the car room to pull over. Otherwise, you're never going to get a ride, because they're all just trying not to stop traffic. And so I walked like 2 miles or so with a bag, a big old bag on my back, until I found an opening where I could have cars slow down enough to pick me up and stuff and not be in the way of traffic. The first car that ended up stopping, it took forever, because the more cars there are, the more people think that everybody else is just going to pick you up. And so the first one that pulled over was a taxi. So obviously that's not the name of the game, but I was like, whatever. $9 later, I was 2 exits further down, and I was in a more sparse area where I was able to have more people, or less people come by, so I had a higher frequency, or higher probability, I should say, of getting picked up. And so, first guy that did pick me up was a bit of a weirdo. This happens every now and again, and he looked at me, and he kind of just kept looking over at me, like if that's me in the passenger seat, like, you look really good, man. You look really good. He started literally hitting on me. So I played it off like funny, whatever, at first, and then it got weird, and actually he was so distracted by me that he got us lost deeper into Atlanta, so actually backtracked. Anyways, long story short is he took me back to where I began, and I just kind of bailed out of the car as fast as I could. But standing on the side of the road, now I'm in the ghetto, because he just dropped me off somewhere. It's like Cleveland Avenue. Sorry, that shadow's in my face. It was like Cleveland Avenue in Atlanta, and whatever, like all I got to do is fail forward now. What else can I do? So I'm standing there on the side of the road with my thumb out. On the on-ramp, I always go to the on-ramp so that they're moving slow, plenty of time to see me, they're turning, we make good eye contact, and I can sit on the guardrail if I want to. It takes like 30 minutes per ride sometimes, so that's what I do. Anywho, sitting on the guardrail, and finally this really nice pickup truck pulls up, and this fella with some kind of Latino accent picks me up, and he's like, really welcoming, like, where are you trying to go? Let me help you. How can I help you? And so I start to talk to him. Antonio is the nicest dude I've met in the longest time. But in that moment, the reason I say all this is that in that moment, there's such an authentic connection. Because he's rolling down his window and he doesn't know if I'm a serial murderer. He's just trying to, he hopes that I'm a good human being and then tries to save that good human being's life. And because he like sees that I'm in the ghetto and it's getting like 4 p.m.-ish in Atlanta and it's cold and there's like lots of thugs and stuff. So he's like trying to save my life, but he has to first assume that I'm a good human being. And so this beautiful interaction ends up happening because he's able to first make that assumption. And on some level, it forces him to love himself because he has to have this acceptance of the moment, acceptance of the now, and this raw vulnerability where he's like, yeah, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And this guy might kill me, but whatever, like, it's what's going to happen because I'm going to lead with my heart. I trust my heart more than I trust my fear right now. And it's magic because I have to do the same thing. And so every time I get into a car, except for every now and again, weirdos will try to hit on me. Every time I get into the car, like, I make an amazing connection. Antonio is a phenomenal human being, and I'll be connected with him for the rest of my life. And he took me like 4 exits further south on 75 than he was intending to go because of just the joy in his heart. And then what ends up happening, and I found this every time, that the longer the ride, the more they want to follow up on me and make sure that I was okay, and the more guilt they actually have. Drivers everywhere from the Rocky Mountains to from like southern Utah to Boise to the East Coast, where everywhere I've hitchhiked, like, the further the ride, the more guilt the driver feels in not doing more. It's like there's an attachment to wanting to give and give and give because giving is addictive. And hitchhiking actually opens up, but funny because we think it's the way that humans die, it's actually opens up the portal for how humans live. And it's not totally safe, and Uber and Lyft are kind of killing it, but it's a great social experiment to really learn about humanity. Because you have to, it creates the condition where both parties have to just open up and be like, okay, you can kill me, but I love you enough to give it a try. And isn't that every relationship? Like, you have to, in order to engage in a beautiful relationship, you have to have that level of vulnerability where it's like, yeah, you could kill me or break my heart, same thing, but I love you enough to give it a try. So I think it's beautiful. That the reason I share this is that hitchhiking and pretty much everything that we do can be a sadhana, or like a spiritual practice of opening, forcing an opening so that you let more love through. And you can't let love through without risking the idea of who you are. The idea of me as a hitchhiker, Joe McVean, with a body and a life that I'm supposed to keep intact, would stop, like, protecting that too much would stop me from having successful hitchhiking experience, from connecting with that human. And so is it dangerous for some people? Yeah. I mean, like, would I recommend my kids doing it? Probably not in America, but elsewhere, in third world countries, I would actually. But I say all that just to explain that humanity is as beautiful as you are within yourself when you approach it. Like, that's a critical misunderstanding that we have throughout a lot of the things that we do, right? And when people suck at work, you know, if we're honest with ourselves, we have a really, really crappy internal situation. But you blame people outside of you that you come across. You say that my boss is a jerk, or that my coworkers suck, or whatever it is. But then you see it's like a negative spiral. It's like those maybe your boss is a jerk and your coworkers do suck, but it gives you that negative feeling inside of you, so you continue to manifest that, and that keeps popping up in your external circumstances. So it's not really until you have some sort of like colossal experience where everybody has to drop their identities and everybody's either scared together or fearful together, or I guess those are the same thing, or like really able to connect deeply. Like, look at what happened in 9/11. the whole world, like New Yorkers, the most barbaric, like walled off people on earth, all of a sudden are loving each other because their identity of safety and security and certainty in who they were, like, had to shatter because all of a sudden the country's at war for, maybe questionable reasons, but whatever, we were at war, and we all had to love each other. We all were vulnerable. In a moment in time, we were all vulnerable. And so that was really, really beautiful. And of course, yesterday you saw Marcus, who was the fella that I met at the truck stop that Antonio dropped me off at. And that was just an amazing conversation. And I crashed in the back of his semi-truck while we drove to Tampa, Florida. He drove the night shift, so super grateful for him for giving me a ride. But now, here I am. Maybe you could see some of the ferns and palms, and again, sorry it's dark, you can't really see, but tomorrow I'll make a video in the light from the beach. But now I'm beautiful West Palm Beach, hanging out with a friend, Amy. And funny thing about Amy, if I'm being totally honest and open, is that for quite a while I didn't feel worthy of her friendship. I didn't feel like I was on her level. Like she's a coach, and she's really vibrant and beautiful and really connected and wise, and I was always like, I don't know, someday Amy, like, is a good person to have in my phone, but like I can never live up to that. But now that I've made it a constant practice, no matter what, I'm going to love myself and accept myself. I feel worthy of being in her physical presence instead of just being a phone buddy every now and again. For the longest time, it's really magical. It's definitely a breakthrough for me. It sounds silly to say, but like all of us, if we're honest, we have people that we look at as like deities, as like far above us. But that's an illusion. If you step out and you look at it like really at life as it is, nobody's better than anybody. We're all one. We're all the same. And it's only the degree to which you love that and accept that you're able to actually see that truth. And I'm super excited about that little realization, as well as many other realizations throughout this journey. But I'll keep you posted on them as they come along. Give that a try, though. Tomorrow, I know it's Saturday and Sunday, you're not going in to see your boss, but give that a try. Like, try to imagine that in every conversation that you approach people with, in every situation that you encounter somebody, where it could, in your mind's eye, you're seeing like, shit, I hope they like me, or maybe this could be beautiful. In your mind's eye, imagine that you have nothing to you, like your whole identity is just a backpack, and there's a stranger rolling down their window and you're about to get in their car to go to an unknown location, and you hope it's towards where you want to be. Where you want to be is love, and you just have to throw your hands up for faith. So like every conversation, pretend like you're like hitchhiking communicating, hitchhike talking, or hitchhike loving, or hitchhike joking, laughing, shooting the breeze, water cooler talk, whatever it is. Like, bring that level of like dying to your expectations, dying to what would protect you, so that all of your love can come through in the conversation. Because in reality, the only way for your love to happen is for the prison guard of your love to die, or at least lay down and sleep for a while. Give that a shot, my friend. Let me know how it is, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Take care.